The 650cc-ish twin is the perfect motorcycle engine for almost any application. The Suzuki SV650, which came out in 1999, opened the eyes of most motorcycle riders to the possibilities of this kind of bike. Light and sporty enough for the twisties, powerful enough for wheelies, not too intimidating for novices, and yet plenty entertaining for experienced riders. And since then, the 650 to 700cc class grew rather large and now includes some thoroughly modern nakeds and a truly old school entry from Royal Enfield. However, despite Yamaha taking a shot at combining classic looks with modern performance, the best looking modern bike in class is the new for 2022 Kawasaki Z650RS. This bike combines the performance of the other modern motorcycles in this group with the classic looks that so many others lack. Brooke and I spent a week and about 1,000 kilometers with this one, so stay tuned for our impressions. And as always, if you're enjoying the content, don't forget to hit those like and subscribe buttons. It really helps the channel grow. I picked up the Z650RS in Toronto and rode it back to my town about an hour and a half outside the city. And when I pulled up to a gas station on the way home, a guy pumping gas beside me looked at the bike and said, "That's old school." When I answered that it's a brand new bike, he couldn't believe it. And he could be forgiven. Look at this thing. Those lines and that color scheme are very reminiscent of the 1970s Z650B1. Pretty sweet looking. This bike is gorgeous, easily the best looking in the class, especially in the green colorway with the gold wheels. Somehow the proportions work perfectly, even better than its big brother the Z900RS. The front light is LED, the mirrors are round, and the analog instruments are a welcome break from the endless line of iPads used by everyone else. Whether looking at the bike from a few feet away or sitting on it, you get the feeling of quality, with the lines and cables neatly tucked away and no overtly cheap bits anywhere in sight. The exhaust system is definitely not 70s specific, but I like the fact that it's tucked underneath the bike as it provides an unobstructed view of the swing arm and rear wheel. Speaking of wheels, these are nicely made as well with an interesting spoke pattern, especially attractive in gold. You'll have to clean these bad boys after riding in the rain though. But underneath the old school look is a modern bike, very similar to the regular Z650 in fact. Unlike the Z650B1, which had an air-cooled inline 4-cylinder, the new RS runs a liquid-cooled parallel twin with a 180-degree crankshaft. The engine puts out 67 horsepower and 48.5 pound-feet of torque, which is a bit down on the Yamaha, Suzuki and Triumph competitors, but doesn't feel it. The power is very linear, which suits a beginner and yet still builds to a point where, if well ridden, this bike will keep up with most other two-wheelers. Want to chase your sport bike buddies in the twisties? Shouldn't be too hard to keep up. So what about the elephant in the room? Sound? Yes, a 180-degree P-twin doesn't sound as good as one with a 270-degree crank. Can't argue with that. The 270-degree engine has the lumpy character of a V-twin, and when standing next to this bike and lightly revving, you are left wanting. However, Kawasaki has some tricks up their sleeve, and quite frankly, I don't know how they do it. The intake noise on every Kawi I've ever ridden has been deep and aggressive, no matter what size the engine. They must have sound engineers working some magic here. Crack this baby open hard and you are greeted with a deep roar that sounds like it's coming from an engine twice the size. Performance-wise, this engine surges a bit at low revs but smooths out at higher speeds, probably something to do with meeting emission standards. It's softer off the bottom than the class-leading Yamaha MT-07, which makes it better suited to novice riders like Brooke, but once wound up, it rushes toward the 10,000 rev red line and hustles as well as any of the competition. Thanks to the wide and flat torque curve, I found I was able to keep the shifting to a minimum through tight corners and just concentrate on my line. And the twin-disc 2-piston Nissan brakes were plenty strong without feeling grabby at low speeds. Brooke, who is still a relative noob, put some good miles on the Z650RS as well and also liked it. She quickly got used to the power difference between this and her 286cc Honda and found the weight and the handling to her liking. This motorcycle is pretty light, coming in at a claimed 412 pounds wet weight, which is very competitive with the other bikes in the class. The rather low 31.5-inch seat height also helped instill Brooke with confidence, as she was able to flat foot rather comfortably. For reference, she is 5 foot 6.5 inches or about 169 centimeters tall. This bike is just about the right size for her, while I, at 5'11 or 181 centimeters, look a bit big on it. Would I recommend it to a beginner? I'd hesitate, as it is a rather powerful motorcycle. Brooke is still a relative new, but she has been riding for 3 years now. A first-time rider might find the power a bit much. So, other details? Tech-wise, we have just the basics, ABS and a slipper clutch. Does it need rider modes? At this power level, rider modes are more of a marketing pitch than a necessity, but a newer rider might like them. If that's you, the only bike in this class to offer them is the Triumph Trident 660. Of all the bikes in this class, the Z650RS is the best 2-up bike by a long way. Brooke loved the generous passenger accommodations, and while it's no touring bike, it's a lot better than the butt floss offered on most naked motorcycles these days. If you carry a passenger often and you want your passenger to like you, this is the only choice. The dash is well laid out and super stylish. The gear indicator is very visible, the speed gauge less so, but that's the price you pay for the old school charm of analog. The mirrors are smooth and stylishly round. They provide a decent view, although not as wide as conventional mirrors. The helmet lock is a nice nod to practicality. Things I would change? Not much really. I'd go for a lower handlebar to put more weight on the front wheel, though as it is the bike handles quite well. Perhaps Kawasaki will do what they did with the Z900RS and offer a regular and cafe version with lower bars and front mini fairing. Speaking of fairings and upgrades, the rather high bars have you sitting up pretty straight, which turns you into a parachute at highway speeds. A fly screen would come in useful if you're going to ride highways often. And how far will you get on that highway or on other roads? The tank is rather small at 12 liters or 3 gallons, and the best I managed was 275 kilometers of mixed riding before the blinking fuel warning light made me lose my nerve. After my longest ride between gas stations, the bike took 12 liters, so I basically pulled in with about a teaspoon of fuel left. Not a long distance tour, although the seat is well padded and pretty comfy. And so we come to price, which is rather on the high end of the class in the US and Canada. This class tends to break down into the racer boy nakeds like the MT-07 and this bike's brother, the non-RS Z650, and this bike, as well as the MT-07's classic looking brother, the XSR 700, with the Trident 660 and SV650 somewhere in the middle. The Royal Enfield Interceptor 650 is much more old school but has far less performance, and the Honda CB650R is an expensive inline-4 option for those who want something different. Of all these bikes, only the Yamaha XSR 700 and Honda CB650R are more expensive than the Z650RS. The Z650RS just gets your pulse going when you walk up to it. And in the saddle, that intake roar sounds pretty good, even if the exhaust sound isn't as good as the Yamaha's. And $150 extra for that sweet green color is a deal. I love the riding dynamics of the MT-07, but the Z650RS is right there with the Yamaha in performance, but miles ahead in looks. And the price difference in Canada, $600. Yeah, I'd spring for the prettier bike. As lame as it sounds, I felt special on it just because of the way it looks. Stick a lower handlebar and an aftermarket can on it, and it's a winner for me. This segment is suddenly very crowded and seems to offer the classic, the neo-classic, as well as the very modern. Which of these bikes tickles your fancy? Is it the retro cool or the Akira Racer Boy hot? Please share your thoughts in the comments. And so, as our week with the Z650RS came to an end, and I was unable to bring it back to Kawasaki Motors Canada during the workday, Brooke took off on the journey to Toronto to run it back and return with next week's test bike, the Z900, in 50th anniversary colors no less. Stay tuned for that test in about a week's time, and yes, for you ADV riders, we have the KLR 650 coming soon as well. Hope you enjoyed the vid and ride safe out there. If you're interested in any of the gear that Brooke and I wear or use, or the camera equipment we use to film this channel, the links are below. Everything listed there was bought with our own money and we are not sponsored by any company. However, the links below are affiliate links and the channel is paid a small amount for referring you to shop at no additional cost to you. We do not recommend any products that we are not satisfied with ourselves, but we do strongly urge you to do your research and select the correct size for items like helmets and clothing. As always, thanks for watching, your support is greatly appreciated. Please hit that subscribe button, give the video a thumbs up, and leave a comment below. And whatever you ride, enjoy it. Wave at other bikers no matter what they're riding. We're all part of a brotherhood and sisterhood. Keep the rubber side down, shiny side up, and may the spokes be with you.